Shun Shiyang defied the late emperor's decree at all costs to make his childhood sweetheart the empress. On the day the new empress entered the imperial harem, my family resigned from office, closed shops, shut our gates, and severed ties with the world. To hell with the empty treasury and border wars, our whole family quit. Go find your precious empress to deal with it. What, even my sister, who married into another country as their empress, has returned to back me up. I watched as my brother-in-law held a knife to the new king's throat, gnashing his teeth. Why did you have to provoke them? I glanced at the dilapidated palace, stripped of all its valuables, then took another look at the newly impoverished king with enemy troops at his doorstep. Yeah, why did you have to mess with us? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The imperial decree to make her queen has been sent to the Qin family. By the time I received the news, the carriage carrying the empress had already entered the palace. How utterly impatient, as if afraid someone might snatch her away. My brother, who's usually expressionless, returned from court today in a rage, kicking the door open with unprecedented emotion. What nonsense is this? My sister marrying him as a mere consort? Pa, is he even worthy? To put it nicely, she's a noble consort. To put it bluntly, she's just a glorified concubine. Back when the late emperor asked our family for support, he kept promising she'd be the empress, the legitimate wife. Now that the late emperor's dead, the new emperor's going back on his word. I poured a cup of water to help my elder brother calm down. What do we do now? If I can put him up there, I can just as easily bring him down. My brother downed his drink in one gulp and slammed the cup down hard, sending shards flying everywhere. He must have been truly furious. That smooth-talking Shun Shiyang probably said something nasty when someone dared to contradict him, working my elder brother into such a rage. My elder brother Fu Yuanxiao is the new emperor's most trusted confidant, his strategist, and even takes to the battlefield in his stead, wielding military power. The new emperor's ascension to the throne was entirely due to my brother's strategic planning and my family's full support. My father provided him with authority, and my mother supplied him with funds. Simply because my father was as close as brothers with the late emperor, he spared no effort in supporting his only son. None of us expected that Shun Shiyang would stab us in the back after achieving fame and success. Where are Mom and Dad? My brother asked calmly after regaining his composure. I counted on my fingers. They left an hour ago. Mom kept insisting on closing the shop, and Dad was demanding to resign from his official post. Even talking about relocating the whole family. Hearing this, my brother found it absolutely reasonable. I'll go resign too, he declared. I asked with great interest, would those new emperors who kill the donkey after it's done grinding the millstone agree to that? I'll put a knife to his neck and make him agree. I shrank my neck slightly. Shun Shiyang, why did you have to provoke them? The imperial decree has arrived. My brother shot a piercing glare, drew the long sword from the display rack, and pressed its tip against the eunuch's chest. Tell Shun Shiyang this, my sister will never be a concubine. The eunuch's legs gave way in fright as he knelt on the ground, his face twisted in distress. This isn't quite proper, is it? Just give him your reply. My brother snorted coldly. Despite objections from his advisors, my father was determined to resign from his official post. My mother publicly announced the discontinuation of the charity porridge distribution and prepared to close down the family shops. My brother went even further. In the council hall before numerous civil and military officials, he surrendered his military authority and resigned from office. According to my personal maid Xiaotsue, the new emperor was furious, saying the eldest young master was about to rebel against heaven itself. I grabbed some melon seeds and cracked them. If my elder brother wanted to rebel, he would have done it long ago. What an ungrateful fool. A voice sounded from outside the door, an elder's laughter. Truly an ungrateful fool. Shiyu's scolding is justified. I slightly raised my eyes, tossing the melon seeds in my hand back onto the plate, and bowed to the Empress Dowager with a composed expression. Your Majesty, what brings you here? Xiaotsue, go prepare some tea. The Empress Dowager took my hand with a kind expression. But I didn't miss the fleeting disdain in her eyes. No need for such formalities. I came mainly to ask Shiyu for a favor, to persuade Lord Fu and Lady Fu. If they were to step down now, wouldn't everything fall into chaos? Xiaotsue was stopped by the guards brought by the Empress Dowager, stomping her feet in frustration. But I gave her a look to stay calm. The new emperor has just ascended the throne, and everything is still in disarray. Wouldn't it be rather unethical to leave at this time? I forced a smile as I withdrew my hand, glancing at the fingernail marks left on it. Your Majesty must be joking. It was the new emperor who failed to keep his promise from back then. Let's not forget, my family supported Shun Xiang precisely because of that promise. The Empress Dowager's good temper gradually waned. Defying an imperial decree is a capital offense. Does Shun Xiang dare to behead my Fu family? Or do you, Empress Dowager, dare? I straightened my robes and sat in the host's seat, showing not the slightest fear of the Empress Dowager. At the Peach Blossom banquet 3 years ago, you drugged me, hoping to force me into a compromising situation with the Crown Prince to gain control over my Fu family. Unfortunately, my brother saved me. And your scheme failed, Your Majesty the Empress Dowager. I've never mentioned this to my family, but guess what if I were to tell them, not to mention my parents, if my sister, the Queen of Song, were to find out? Do you think the king who cherishes her above all else would lead his iron cavalry to tear down your fragile walls? The Empress Dowager's face grew increasingly grim, her dignified composure crumbling as she pointed at me in fury. You Fu Shiyu, this is treasonous, how dare you? Since when have I ever been allowed to be reckless? Yet I've been reckless many times before. What's one more? I picked up the teacup and took a sip. Xiaotsue. See our guest out. I refuse to believe the kingdom of Shun can't function without you lot. Watching the Dowager Empress's flustered retreat, I felt a surge of vindication. Just as I was about to ask Xiaotsue to fetch a pot of chilled wine, 3 little heads popped out from behind the screen. They are father, mother, eldest brother. Oh no. I forgot they know martial arts. What on earth did you just say? Father and mother asked first, their faces pale with shock, then turned icy gazes toward eldest brother. Didn't you investigate back then? The elder brother frowned, his eyes filled with doubt. Didn't you say you were just feeling unwell? I smiled and replied, it's nothing, just a little trouble that lasted the night. Hearing my deliberate attempt to downplay it, they only grew more concerned. I felt somewhat helpless. How could I possibly say that if it weren't for the highly skilled healer by my side, my only options would have been to either sleep with a man or face certain death? After the meal, the family, exhausted from a busy day, wordlessly devoured their food with remarkable synchronization. Father with his chopsticks, mother with hers, and elder brother occasionally adding a couple more bites. Though not particularly hungry myself, I ended up eating even more than they did. I could tell they were trying to comfort me, but there's no need. It's not like I have deep feelings for Shun Xiang anyway. After eating and drinking their fill, the 3 of them got a second wind and came back to life. After discussing it, the 3 of them agreed that the capital was too chaotic and depressing, so they might as well go somewhere else. It would be a good way to clear their minds. I agree. No one in the family objected. Mother's business spanned across nations. Other emperors were eager to get a share of my mother's wealth, treating her as an honored guest. What a pity Shun Xiang was blind to her worth. But I never expected that, the day before our planned departure, the emperor would summon me to the palace. Me, I'm not going. Who knows what kind of trick he's up to? The imperial eunuch whispered something in my ear, and my eyes flickered with understanding. Fine, I'll go. My elder brother grabbed my arm, but I gave him a reassuring look. Without even changing my clothes, I swaggered off to the palace, enter the imperial palace, proceed to the royal gardens. A group of people stopped me, a bevy of young women, all seemingly around my age, some even familiar faces. Well, who do we have here? If it isn't Fu Shiyu, what's the matter? No one wants you. Came to beg His Majesty for a concubine's title. Ha ha ha, not everyone is as fortunate as the Empress. Moving into the central palace on the very day the new emperor ascended the throne, His Majesty truly adores Her Majesty to the extreme. Indeed, I've heard the emperor nearly emptied the national treasury, all because he felt it would be too hasty and unfair to the Empress. I'm afraid some people are too busy being jealous to even catch up. The target of these words was all too obvious. I looked at them with pity. How pitiful, they've emptied the national treasury. The shops my mother gave me couldn't be emptied even if I moved things for 10 years. You, not getting the reactions they wanted, and even being left speechless by her retort, their faces flushed red with anger. I still need to see the emperor. Ladies, please continue your sarcastic games with the Empress. Farewell. I maintained the demeanor of gentleness and virtue, wearing an innocent and harmless expression, even when speaking with sarcastic undertones. I gave them no grounds for criticism, yet this very demeanor was all the more infuriating. This time, there were no obstacles on the road, only an emperor sitting in the grand hall, playing the pitiful victim. Shiyu, you've finally come. Look at how the imperial household is nearly destitute now. Could you ask your mother to? I cut him off. Your Majesty, haven't you been dipping into the imperial treasury lightly? I just heard on my way here that you've been spending lavishly for the new Empress. How could you possibly be short of funds? You really do have a sense of humor." With that single sentence, I completely blocked his request for money. Watching his face turn from green to purple with rage was utterly satisfying. "Shiyu, you've changed." The Emperor sat on the high throne, looking down at me with eyes filled with confusion, doubt, and irritation. "You used to be so obedient and could understand my thoughts perfectly. Why have you changed now?" I sat casually on a chair to the side. Craning my neck to speak upwards was rather exhausting. "Your Majesty, I believe you're well aware that all of this was built upon that one promise you made. If you don't mention establishing an Empress, who the hell would pave the way for you?" LMAO, to be precise, my parents were paving the way for the stable and opulent latter half of my life. He couldn't maintain his composure under my retort, his expression gradually darkening. "Shiyu, I understand your resentment, but this is the result of my careful consideration. The Fu family's influence is too great. Once you ascend to the position of Empress, some may fear your power overshadowing the throne and seek to impeach you. This is just a disguised way of pinning the blame on my family. Our family won't take the fall for this, with achievements overshadowing the ruler. People might think our family relies on power to do wicked deeds every day. Anyone with eyes can see that the Fu family seeks neither fame nor profit. We distribute porridge daily and build orphanages. It's precisely these actions that helped you stand out among all the princes. And those who can't stand it are probably just the Empress's relatives. Their money isn't as much as my family's, their official rank isn't as high as my family's, and I'm still the Empress favored by the people. Other than her, who else would have a problem with me?" I let out a light laugh. Today's grudge was thoroughly settled. Clatter. The palace maid serving tea trembled at these words, dropping the cup to the floor with a piercing sound. Terrified, she immediately knelt on the ground, her body trembling uncontrollably. "Spare my life. Your Majesty, spare my life." Shen Shiyang, who happened to have nowhere to vent his anger, grabbed the teacup beside him and smashed it to pieces. "Disrespect in the imperial court, drag her out and beat her to death with sticks. See, with your uncontrollable temper like this, do you really think you could have ascended the throne without my family's support?" I delivered the final blow with nonchalance. The Emperor's chest heaved violently with rage as he stood up, staggered down the steps, and came before me, gripping my chin. "You claim your Fu family seeks neither fame nor fortune. Yet you still scheme to push your way into the imperial harem, onto the throne of Empress." I gently clasped his fingers and applied slight pressure, instantly contorting his expression with pain. "Yet this position, if discarded, wouldn't it just be discarded? It's not like you cherished it much anyway, is it?" My casual demeanor suggested I was discarding not just the title of Empress, but the Emperor himself as well. "Fu Shiyu, how dare you be so insolent? Shen Shiyang, you've damaged my hearing. Your imperial treasury couldn't possibly compensate for it now. Since you're fine, I'll take my leave now." I stood up, shoved past him without sparing any courtesy, and walked straight away, leaving him alone to lose his composure and hurl curses at my retreating figure. I remained unmoved, even finding it somewhat laughable. How could I have agreed to help such a despicable person back then? Outside the palace gates, near where the carriages were parked, a crowd had gathered. Judging by their attire, they were noble women. "Slap her face for me. My sister is the queen. How many heads do you have to spare for offending me? Just a disobedient lowly maid. If I want her dead, she dies. Who dares hold me accountable?" Faintly, I heard Xiaozui's muffled sobs. Taking several steps forward, I pushed aside the noblewoman blocking my way. When I saw it was truly Xiaozui, fury blazed through my heart. Well, who do we have here? If it isn't noble consort Fu Shiyu, what you dare interfere when I discipline my servants? Qin Xie was looking at me with a provocative gaze. I yanked Xiao Kui up, my heart aching at the sight of her swollen face. My sharp eyes turned toward Qin Xie, filled with venomous coldness. "Since you've taken it upon yourself to discipline my maid," I took 2 steps forward, my chilling presence halting Qin Xiechie's attempt to retreat, gripping her firmly. I whispered softly by her ear, "There must be a surprise for you tonight. I hope you'll like it." She shivered uncontrollably, and when she met my gaze, her legs actually began to weaken. As soon as I loosened my grip, she collapsed to the ground, trembling as if utterly spineless. "Worthless," I sneered coldly, shoving past the crowd and returning to the carriage. "Go home." By afternoon, the rumor that Qin Xie had mocked her sister for being the queen had spread throughout the capital. The Qin family began keeping their doors shut. According to informants, The queen sent her personal maid to deliver several harsh slaps to Qin's ear and made her kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days and nights as punishment. Oops, I accidentally let it slip to a maid, who then blabbed to others. Before long, the queen's reputation for jealousy was out in the open. At the same time, another rumor quietly emerged. In the tea house, a storyteller declared before the crowd. The newly entered palace consort practices witchcraft and will bewitch the new king's heart. True or not, such nonsense could cost you your head. The storyteller grew impatient. How am I talking nonsense? I'm from the western regions myself. I saw her there with my own eyes. Have you all forgotten? She disappeared for a time before, and not long after returning, she moved straight into that place. Sorcery, the witchcraft that everyone fears. This was deemed an ill omen. Instantly, the crowd erupted. The story spread like wildfire, each person adding their own embellishments until the rumor spiraled out of control, plunging the capital into panic. On the night of the rumor's spread, a group of ministers sought an audience at the palace. The entire palace was shrouded in a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. Among them, the minister I had planted stirred up the crowd to inspect the queen's chambers. The truth would be revealed with a single search. The new king, full of conviction and ready to redeem his honor, indeed unearthed a voodoo doll inscribed with the emperor's birth date. To think it was true, the new king, in a fit of rage, spat out a mouthful of blood and summoned the imperial physician in the dead of night. As for Qin Qianqian, for some inexplicable reason, she collapsed and could not rise, with no discernible illness, as if confirming the rumors of witchcraft. Hearing this news, I was so delighted that I wolfed down 2 bowls of rice in one go, exclaiming with glee. My elder brother, peeling a crab, sighed slightly in resignation. Slow down, or you'll choke. I let out a satisfied burp, rubbing my belly. So appetizing, so appetizing. My parents watched me with indulgent smiles, not scolding me in the slightest. The next day, a disgusting imperial decree arrived at our mansion. Still in the midst of dreaming, I was dragged out of bed. When I arrived in the front hall, my parents and the chief eunuch were already at daggers drawn. The moment the chief eunuch saw me, he looked as if granted amnesty. Miss Fu, the Empress Dowager summons you to the palace. Please come with me at once. My elder brother blocked my path, sneering as he refused to accept the decree. An imperial edict today, an Empress Dowager's decree tomorrow. What are they playing at? Are they deliberately trying to humiliate our family? The chief eunuch spoke weakly, lacking conviction. Young Master Fu, what kind of talk is this? The Empress Dowager is most benevolent. Moreover, refusing a decree is punishable by the extermination of 9 generations. He's refused so many times, does he dare execute me? Big brother retorted. Father sat in the host's seat, leisurely sipping his tea. The Empress Dowager is ill. Have all the other women in the palace died? That it falls to my daughter, who's had conflicts with the palace, to attend to her. He might as well have named names outright, implying the Empress Dowager only summoned me to the palace out of petty revenge. Hearing my father's accusatory tone, the chief eunuch wiped the sweat from his forehead. Attending to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's illness is a great honor. My mother stood in front of the decree-bearing eunuch and shouted, the door wide open, her voice loud and unafraid of being overheard. Honor my ass, she's just humiliating us. Who doesn't know my Shiyu is frail and sickly? The royal family truly has a peculiar sense of humor, first deceiving several of our officials, and now trying to kill my daughter too. How cruel fate is to my daughter. Former king, we served you with utter loyalty, and this is the reward we get. My mother's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke with such emotion that my own heart ached with sorrow. I hugged her tightly. It's all right, I'll go. Refusing the noble consort's decree has already angered the imperial court. If I don't go now, they might accuse our family of defying an imperial order. We can't afford that. Daughter only wishes for father, mother, and eldest brother to be well. Even if I were to die in the imperial palace, it would be no great loss. The chief eunuch protested. The Empress Dowager harbors no such thoughts. Alas, the family paid no heed to his words. The chief eunuch looked even more aggrieved. What kind of mess is this? In the end, I still didn't enter the palace. My parents packed their belongings while the maidservant wept at the door. In this world, the loyal and devoted are forced to flee their homeland. What kind of justice is this? My entire family was forced to leave. It was a grand spectacle, but we hid everything in a secret room. Packing only some clothes and such, mostly to cry injustice, the whole family managed to pack just 3 boxes, 2 of which were filled with clothes. Hearing the commotion, father's disciples came to stop him. Lord Fu, what are you doing? Can't we discuss this properly? What more is there to discuss? My father angrily pulled his sleeve back from their grasp, wiping his tears. My daughter Fu Shiyu is the most treasured jewel of our family, held dearly in our palms. How dare the imperial family treat her with such contempt? Do they think our household has no temper at all? Forget it, let's leave. This capital devours people, and those few inside would sooner suck the marrow from our bones. You've seen it yourself, we've given all our money to them. And now we're left with just a few trunks of clothes. Good deeds go unrewarded. We must have been blind. A minister Su, who was close friends with my father, went straight to open 3 trunks. After rummaging through, he found 2 filled with nothing but clothes, and the third containing only some scattered calligraphy, paintings, writing brushes, ink, and a stack of small-denomination silver notes. Minister Su trembled with rage, gritted his teeth as he locked the trunks, and said to his assembled colleagues, "To the palace, we'll see the emperor." Coincidentally, just at that moment, a carriage leisurely came to a stop. A delicate hand lifted the curtain, followed by a figure leaning out and jumping down from the carriage. When I saw that face, my heart skipped a beat uncontrollably. "Fifth Prince," the minister exclaimed. You're not." The 5th Prince shrugged, his devastatingly handsome face showing a hint of helplessness. "I didn't die, I was saved." When he spoke those last 3 words, he glanced at me nonchalantly before continuing. "On my way back to the capital, I met someone and brought her along as a companion." A woman emerged from the carriage, dressed in a red martial outfit, standing half a head taller than me with an icy expression on her face. I looked at her, my eyes gradually welling up with mist. She opened her arms to me, and I lifted my skirt to throw myself into her embrace, whimpering softly as I complained, "Sister, they all bullied me, they bullied me." Second sister patted my back, then swept a cold glance over the other ministers. "Second sister is back to stand up for you now." The ministers all wore grim expressions and immediately took their leave, hurrying straight to the palace. My family is notoriously protective of our own, especially my second sister. Once, someone spread rumors about me, saying I had climbed into the crown prince's bed at a young age and used it to blackmail him into this marriage arrangement. That very night, the rumormonger's house caught fire. Everyone escaped safely except for that person, who was tied to the bed and burned alive. They didn't dare make it public either, claiming it was just an accidental fire, but there were still some who knew it was my second sister who did it, and my second sister married the ruler of the Qin state, who adored her to death. She was the only woman in his entire harem. My sister's position in Qin was so influential that with just a word from her, the love-struck ruler might very well launch an attack on the Shan state. After all, Qin's military strength was at least 3 times greater than Shan's. It's only been 8 years since I married away, yet they've all forgotten me. It seems I really should teach them a lesson. My second sister sneered. Soon, people from the imperial palace came to stop us, persuading us with all sorts of excuses not to leave. That evening, second sister invited her former close friends to a tavern, after gathering accurate information. She had the 10th princess organize a flower-viewing banquet 5 days later and invited the queen to attend. The 10th princess spread her hands, with the emperor collapsed, the queen unconscious, and the empress dowager just feigning illness. Isn't this a rather inappropriate time to hold such an event? The second sister took out 3 pills. "These are precious medicines I've been reluctant to use myself. Let's give them to those 3, to prove a point." The second sister was going all out. I heard every word clearly from the private room next door. The 5th prince, Shen Nanxiao, took a sip of wine, his face showing helplessness. "Fu Shiyu, I didn't invite you here to listen to gossip, having been too engrossed in listening earlier." I had completely forgotten about the 5th prince. Clearing my throat awkwardly, I rubbed my nose in embarrassment. "So, what's the matter then?" At this moment, the gathering next door dispersed. And only then did the 5th prince leisurely say, "For saving my life, it's only proper to offer myself in marriage." My hand holding the teacup paused. "What does Miss Fu think of this proposal?" Was that even a question? I gritted my teeth. "I currently have no plans to marry." He nodded. "I thought as much." "What?" Then he added, "I have no place to stay in the capital. Would Miss Fu be willing to take me in for a while? That would temporarily exempt you from marriage." Hearing that I didn't have to get married, I immediately said, "Deal." After speaking, I saw his triumphant smile and belatedly realized I'd been tricked. How does he always get the better end of every deal? "A woman's word is as good as her bond, no takebacks," he said. I stomped on his foot twice under the table in frustration to vent my anger. He didn't seem hurt at all and only laughed more heartily. The 10th princess's flower-viewing banquet didn't happen. But the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet arrived first. this being the emperor's first year on the throne, Shen Xiang ordered it to be held with extra extravagance. My second sister sneered upon hearing this. Seems like they're quite wealthy, aren't they? Why pretend to be poor? My mother counted the silver taels while chiming in occasionally. Exactly, they're clearly taking advantage of Shiyu's good nature. A cold smile played on my second sister's lips as a storm brewed in her eyes. With my second sister here, I felt completely at ease. Hugging the pastry box, I happily munched away while lounging on the daybed. A soft chuckle escaped me as I lifted my head to see the fifth prince, who had arrived unnoticed. He was seated across from me, his eyes laced with amusement. I quickly lowered my legs, 2 faint blushes drifting across my cheeks. Greetings, fifth prince. Since when has Lady Fu become so formal after waking up? Hearing this, the old woman counting money set down her silver, and second sister, who had been brewing plans for revenge, straightened up, her eyes darting back and forth between me and the fifth prince. Second sister, Fu Xiu, what's going on between you two? Though I relied on second sister, I had also been disciplined by her plenty as a child. The moment she questioned me, my body tensed uncontrollably, and I flusteredly explained. We don't have anything going on. Second sister's gaze grew even more profound. Why are you so nervous? I looked pleadingly at the fifth prince across from me, only to find him smirking with Schadenfreude, showing no intention of helping me, on the verge of tears. Just as I was pondering how to explain, he finally spoke up. It's nothing much, just that yesterday I annoyed Miss Fu, and she stomped on my feet several times. With that, the fifth prince stretched out his foot. See. The footprint is still there. I nodded eagerly. Yes, exactly like that. Second sister looked at me meaningfully. Is that so? Yes. My hands hidden beneath my sleeves kept fidgeting nervously. Second sister shifted her gaze to the fifth prince. Fifth prince, will you attend the palace banquet? I won't go. The fifth prince replied. He didn't invite me, why should I go? A sharp glint flashed through second sister's eyes. The fifth prince has been missing for so long. And now that he's finally returned, the emperor is actually so jealous that he's petty enough not to invite him to the palace banquet. The fifth prince nodded in agreement. After all, when father emperor was still alive, he favored me more. Second sister smiled. If the fifth prince were unharmed, the Fu family would probably be supporting him instead. The fifth prince shook his head, his gaze carrying an emotion I couldn't comprehend when he looked at me anyway. It made me blush and avert my eyes. I don't need the Fu family's support, I can manage on my own. His words weren't mere bravado. Before the fifth prince died, he often led campaigns personally, going wherever needed. Over the years, he never lost a single battle. His military strategies left even the veteran generals in awe, and the late emperor entrusted him with full command of the army. No imperial prince was ever allowed to personally hold military power, except for him. The late emperor showered him with all his favor, until one unexpected incident. While traveling incognito, he was ambushed by assassins. With only a small retinue at his side, he faced hundreds of skilled killers. Even with his formidable martial arts skills, he couldn't outlast them all. In the end, he tumbled off the cliff. Below that cliff lay a field belonging to my family, filled with the flowers and plants I adored. That day, I had just escaped to catch my breath and was rolling about in the blossoms when the fifth prince, covered in blood, crashed to the ground right beside me. Gasping for breath, it gave me quite a fright. After recognizing the person, I immediately stuffed the life-saving pill my second sister had given me into his mouth, then swiftly summoned hidden guards to clean up the traces before hiding the fifth prince in the secret chamber. Those assassins searched my courtyard several times but found nothing. Eventually, they discovered some mutilated remains in a nearby tiger's den, along with the fifth prince's torn clothes and jade pendant. The assassin then went back to report the completion of his mission. The fifth prince was unconscious for a month. Fortunately, the secret chamber was where I often hid from my second sister's beatings, so it was fully equipped with a bed and food. The fifth prince rested quite comfortably there. The only thing was, I kept sneaking out from time to time and got scolded by my second sister again. Fu Xiu. Second sister called me several times before I snapped out of my reverie, momentarily disoriented. What's wrong? I told mother that the fifth prince is both capable and handsome, and since you're such a looks-oriented person, and he likes you too, it's practically a match made in heaven. Why don't you two just get married? Hearing this, I immediately protested. I don't want to marry him. To my surprise, the fifth prince spoke up at the same time. I don't like her at all. Her. When second sister mentioned it earlier, I completely overlooked that remark. Hearing him say it now, I belatedly turned my gaze toward him. His entire face turned red as a monkey's bottom, as if overwhelmed by embarrassment. I have matters to attend to, I'll take my leave first. The fifth prince couldn't stay any longer. He rose and hurried out, his steps so rushed they nearly broke into a run. Passing the threshold without looking, he stumbled over it. I covered my mouth, laughing. Second sister, look how silly he is. Second sister gave a perfunctory hum in agreement, but her eyes were darting around. From my experience, she was definitely plotting something mischievous. Well, this time, the unlucky one might be me. I couldn't bring myself to smile again. The palace banquet. Our family remained in the same position as before, but the Qin family had moved forward, even surpassing our previous spot. Qin Xie smugly raised her eyebrows at me in triumph. Fu Shiyu, you're nothing special after all. I picked at my ear. Second sister, I think I hear a dog barking. Such dogs should be chopped up and thrown into the cesspool to rid us of their bad luck. Enough, enough, let's not talk about this unlucky thing. Second sister picked up a piece of fish with her chopsticks and put it in my bowl. You love this the most. I grinned and thanked second sister. Qin Xie couldn't bear this humiliation, her words dripping with sarcasm. A married daughter running home every day, how shameless. The lively hall fell deathly silent the moment these words were spoken. Qin Xie felt a flicker of fear but mustered her courage to retort. What, am I wrong? She's married to another country yet keeps coming back. Isn't she just trying to steal secrets and collude with the Fu family to attack Shen Kingdom? No wonder the Fu family has been so quiet lately. They were hiding something. Afraid of being discovered. Asterisk slap asterisk. Qin Xie. Two voices rang out simultaneously. My second sister wiped the hand that had slapped her, a flicker of disgust flashing in her eyes. If my Fu family had any intention of rebellion, do you think the new emperor would still exist? Moreover, no matter how bold my Fu family may be, we wouldn't dare to practice witchcraft. It's your Qin family that truly has the audacity. I heard that as soon as the voodoo doll was brought out, both the emperor and the empress fainted. Good heavens. If it weren't for my Song Kingdom's miraculous healing medicine, you'd probably still be unconscious. How could you possibly host this palace banquet then? Heh. You really do repay kindness with ingratitude. The words ungrateful wretches might as well be plastered across their faces. Second sister's sharp tongue is my absolute favorite. My sense of security just skyrocketed. My eating movements became even more cheerful. Shen Shiyang, seated at the head of the table, looked utterly displeased. Matters of my Shen Kingdom don't seem to be within the purview of the Song Kingdom's Empress, do they? My second sister countered with effortless composure. Naturally, it's not for the Song Kingdom's Empress to meddle. But as Fu Shiyu's elder sister now, I certainly have every right to intervene. Fu Shiyu's sister, if that's the case, why didn't you perform the ceremonial kowtow just now? Do you have no respect for the emperor? Qin Xie jumped in, looking as if she had caught my second sister in some wrongdoing. Qin Qianqian also forced a magnanimous smile. It must be that Miss Fu hasn't returned to the capital for so long that she's forgotten about this matter. Sire, don't be rude. My second sister downed the wine in front of her with a faint, ambiguous smile. The late emperor decreed that my Fu family is exempt from kneeling to anyone. Could it be that the Qin family refuses to acknowledge the late emperor's words, or is the new emperor denying them? If the new emperor denies it, well, that's understandable. After all, it wouldn't be the first time. Though, the Qin family might simply be unaware. Before marrying into the imperial family, their rank wasn't high enough. Only officials of third rank and above were present when this was declared. It's understandable they wouldn't know. The words cleverly implied that the Qin family rose through the ranks solely by riding on Qin Qianqian's coattails, while also suggesting they were utterly insignificant before, not even worthy of being present as bystanders. Hearing this, I couldn't help but clap for my second sister. Many of the veteran ministers present turned even paler as they stared at the late emperor. If the Fu family isn't welcome here, then the new emperor needn't bother sending us invitations next time. We'll spare ourselves the trouble of coming to the palace. My second sister pulled me up and even kicked over the small table in front of us, sending cups and dishes clattering to the ground. Just as we stepped over the threshold, my second sister seemed to remember something and turned back to say to the new emperor, "Your Majesty, a prime minister's heart is big enough to sail a boat as the emperor. Your magnanimity should be even greater. The fifth prince has been back in the capital for days now. It's one thing not to return his former residence, but to exclude him from the palace banquet too. TSK, the fifth prince is truly wronged. If not for that incident, who knows what might have been in the future." Leaving behind words that left everyone exchanging bewildered glances, she led me out of the palace unimpeded. Once in the carriage, I collapsed onto the seat and let out a sigh of relief that felt so satisfying. As I spoke, I couldn't help but start laughing. My sister pinched my cheek, her eyes filled with affection. Fu Shiyu, we'll have some excitement to watch soon. I stood up, my eyes glinting with schadenfreude. What's the story? Your brother-in-law came chasing after you. Heard he got stopped at the border. Seems there was some friction. My heart tightened. Is brother-in-law all right? Of course he's fine, but with no generals or leaders at the border now, they'll probably come begging for help again before long. The states of Song and Shan share a border. While most other states have been devoured by Song, Shan remains safe and sound, all thanks to my Fu family. One is my second sister, the apple of my eye. The other is my eldest brother, my closest confidant. Back when my eldest brother was traveling, he accidentally met my brother-in-law. And only later got to know my second sister. It was love at first sight, and he immediately launched an intense pursuit. After he stole my second sister away, my eldest brother was depressed for quite a while. I treated you like a brother, and you had the nerve to covet my sister. My eldest brother pointed at his nose and scolded him. The way my brother-in-law pretended to be clueless, looking around at the sky and the ground, is still vivid in my memory to this day. I burst out laughing and hugged my second sister's arm, coquettishly clinging to her for a while. Sis Tilda, I want to eat the lychees from Song Country Tilda. Alright, I'll write to your brother-in-law right away and have him bring some for you. What? Qin Zhisheng has been appointed as the cavalry general. Second sister couldn't stop grinning when she heard the news from the hidden guard. Eldest brother was so shocked by these words that he spat out his water. Coughing violently while clutching his chest, father and mother were brimming with schadenfreude. Qin Zhisheng, that cowardly Qin Zhisheng who's always lingering in pleasure quarters. I stared blankly at the shadow guard, asking in disbelief, though worthless mud can't be propped against a wall, he doesn't even seem worthy of being called mud. The shadow guard nodded. Yes, second miss, I muttered to myself, my eyes filled with incredulity. Could he still think this is just a minor conflict? Sending the Qin family to gild their reputation, there had indeed been occasional conflicts with the Song state before, but with my eldest brother around, there usually weren't any major issues. Perhaps that's why Shen Xiang let his guard down, showing such shallow judgment by casually sending someone over. But this time, with my brother-in-law leading the campaign himself and the Shen state treating our Fu family so harshly, with no one to mediate, this behavior is practically asking for death. The national treasury is nearly depleted, and provisions are barely sufficient to keep up. I sighed deeply. The kingdom of Shen was doomed. My second sister gloated with schadenfreude. Perfect timing for a scapegoat. On the 5th day of Qin Zhisheng's departure, he reached the border. On the 6th day, the border fell. Qin Zhisheng fled the battlefield, dragging the third son of the guardian duke to take an arrow meant for him. The third son of the protector duke died on the spot. While Qin Zhisheng narrowly escaped with his life, in just 3 days, he fled back to the capital. Meanwhile, 13 border cities fell in rapid succession. The entire Shen kingdom was thrown into chaos. Deserting in the face of battle and causing the death of loyal generals is an unforgivable crime. If Qin Zhisheng hadn't launched that midnight ambush and provoked their anger, they wouldn't have urgently mobilized troops to attack the Shen kingdom. After all, my brother-in-law never truly intended to kill them, he only wanted to subdue them. Now look what's happened. Not only have countless soldiers perished, but we've also lost 13 cities, all crucial strongholds. During the morning court session, a eunuch stumbled in frantically to deliver urgent news. Whereupon the Duke Protector, a venerable minister who had served 3 dynasties, spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed unconscious on the spot. The new emperor was so enraged he nearly fainted as well. A military officer, gnashing his teeth, demanded to know what had happened. With tears streaming down his face, the eunuch recounted the events in detail. The officer, incensed, began cursing loudly right there in the court, even dragging Qin Qianqian into his tirade. The entire nation is now calling Qin Qianqian a seductive concubine who brings disaster to the country, with her second sister conveniently bringing up the previous incident involving witchcraft. The title of seductive concubine was thus firmly established. Many even took to the streets, demanding the new emperor strip Qin Qianqian of her position as empress. Memorials from ministers flooded the palace like snowflakes. During dinner that evening, we discussed the matter, the eldest brother said. The emperor probably can't handle the pressure and is about to depose Qin Qianqian. The second sister shook her head. He won't. My parents and I all turned our gazes toward the second sister. I have my people by his side. If I don't let him be ruined, he won't be. Second sister always carried herself with an air of strategic mastery, as if today's affairs were entirely within her grasp, if this world treated women kindly and allowed them to take imperial examinations. The entire Shan kingdom would probably already be under second sister's control. What about the fifth prince? Why hasn't he come? The leap in conversation was too abrupt, I couldn't keep up at first. Second sister looked at me meaningfully, as if she already knew about that matter. I kept my head down and ate, pretending to know nothing. I thought if no one picked up the thread, this matter would pass, but then eldest brother chimed in. I saw the fifth prince going out with a woman just now, it seemed to be his former betrothed. His betrothed? I abruptly raised my head. Baiji, he went out with Baiji. Where did he go? Angelica, together with Qin Qianqian, has been snatching things from me since we were kids. Once. The Su'er once expressed his feelings for me. After Angelica found out, within 3 days, the Su'er never showed me a kind expression again. I had someone investigate, it was Angelica's doing. Out of jealousy, from then on, I became even more cautious about avoiding men. I dropped my chopsticks in panic and rushed out the door, only to collide headlong with the returning fifth prince. After stumbling back, I noticed Baiji standing beside him. I immediately grabbed the fifth prince and pulled him behind me, pointing at Baiji with reddened eyes. Baiji, what are you trying to do this time? Angelica smiled ambiguously. What did I do? Naturally. I told the fifth prince everything you've done in detail. Having said that, she then cast a flirtatious glance at the fifth prince. Don't forget what I told you. Trembling with rage, I ordered the doors to be shut and decreed that Angelica be forbidden from entering henceforth. The fifth prince said with a smile. Why so angry? I grabbed the fifth prince and dragged him inside, heading straight for my boudoir, my face dark. The fifth prince smiled and greeted my eldest brother and second sister. With a forceful tug from me, he gave a helpless smile. My eldest brother was about to get up and chase after us, but my second sister stopped him. Hey, what are you butting in for? The eldest brother frowned tightly. What's going on here? Your little sister is jealous, that's a good thing. Otherwise, how would these two tight-lipped gourds ever speak up? The second sister glanced at the spot where we had disappeared and smiled knowingly. Bang! I slammed the door shut with a heavy thud, pushed him onto the chair, and said with reddened eyes, I, Fu Shiyu, have never done anything wrong. Baiji is just jealous of me, you mustn't believe a word she says. The fifth prince's smile nearly spilled from his eyes. I know, no, if there's a problem, we need to solve it. Whatever she told you, I'll explain everything clearly to you. I don't want there to be the slightest rift between me and the fifth prince. The fifth prince cleared his throat, and this time his voice carried a hint of tenderness. She said you've liked me for a long time. If her family hadn't interfered back then, it would have been you in the marriage arrangement. I froze for a moment, this seemed somewhat off. I silently took 2 steps back, my previous confidence gone. And what else? She also said that she's already found someone she likes now. She came to me to discuss cancelling the engagement, since she's not getting any younger and can't wait anymore. I cleared my throat lightly, poured myself a glass of water, found a seat, and took a guilty sip. Then what? She also mentioned that during the years I was missing, even though you appeared to be Shen Xian's fiancé, whenever someone spoke ill of me, you'd be the first to throw punches, claiming it was to protect the royal family's dignity. But she always suspected you were settling personal scores under the guise of duty. I stared at the teacup, sipping secretly, not daring to make a sound. Angelica, how could you secretly turn over a new leaf behind my back? Impulsiveness is truly inadvisable, truly inadvisable. What should we do now? My face burned fiercely as I slowly set down the teacup and cleared my throat lightly. Well, I still have some things to do. I'm not full yet. You go have fun by yourself. Suddenly, my confidence evaporated. I hurriedly pushed open the door to flee, 1 foot already stepping out when suddenly my whole body was lifted into the air. The fifth prince kicked the door shut and pressed me back into the chair. With sudden proximity, he demanded, Fu Shiyu, are you jealous? I don't remember how I left the room. I only recall the fifth prince's face, so mesmerizing that I stammered out all my secrets under his spell, every tactical excuse, every trace of jealousy. Even the exact moment I fell for him, he coaxed each confession from me with irresistible allure. When I was 10 years old, I ran up the mountain out of mischief, but carelessly fell into a hunting pit. At that time, the fifth prince, 3 years older than me, was also in a foul temper. The late emperor had urged him to consider suitable marriage candidates, but unwilling to comply, he went alone outside the city to clear his mind. He happened to save me. I will never forget how he carried my blooded body out of the pit, wrapped me in his robe, and rushed all the way to his villa outside the city. Don't go. I vaguely remember still running a high fever, clinging to that lifesaver of mine and refusing to let him leave. When I regained consciousness 3 days later, he had actually taken 3 days off to stay by my side the entire time. The first thing he said when I woke up was, "You're quite the strong little thing." I couldn't pry myself free no matter how hard I tried. Later, I learned from the fifth prince, who hummed and said, "It's not that I couldn't pull away, I just couldn't bear to. The moment I saw you, I thought you were so small and pitiful, and my heart ached for you. Then, for some reason, I found you adorable and couldn't bring myself to leave, so I indulged my whims and spent 3 days with you." From that day on, a seed of secret affection was quietly planted. In the following years, I often saw the fifth prince, until his unexpected death. After uncovering the culprit, I formed my future plans. Knock, knock, it was Xiaotsue, knocking on the door as she said, "Miss, the second young lady sent me to remind you, don't be too reckless. After all, you're not married yet, you should restrain yourself a little." The rest of her words trailed off into a whisper. Creak, bang. Xiaotsue stared dumbfounded as the fifth prince, who had been thrown out, cast a resentful look at her. She shrank her neck, looked up at the sky, and pretended she knew nothing at all. The fifth prince left in angry laughter. An hour later, unable to bear the hunger any longer, I had Xiaotsue secretly fetch some food from the kitchen. Just as I was secretly eating in my room, the palace sent someone to demand a century-old ginseng. The reason was that Qin Jisheng was in critical condition and needed the century-old ginseng to sustain his life. My father laughed in anger. "What? Say that again. What do you want? A century-old ginseng? For whom? For that coward who fled from battle? Have you no shame? Grabbing at everything in sight. Are the Qins nothing but bandits? What do you mean keeping it in mind? You want everything for yourselves. Our Fu family has been bled dry by all of you. Want the ginseng? There isn't any left. The century-old ginseng is a treasured heirloom of the Fu family. We ourselves couldn't bear to use it. Preserving it carefully and reverently, it's meant for saving lives. And now, the emperor comes demanding it, and wants the whole route at that. Dream on." The emperor flew into a rage and dispatched the imperial guards to forcibly search our Fu residence. Where there's excitement to be had, how could I possibly miss out? I didn't even finish gnawing the pork knuckle before rushing to the gate, where both sides stood facing each other with torches ablaze. The house was already surrounded by the imperial guards. My parents, eldest brother, and second sister were all at the entrance, facing the commander of the imperial guards, who wore a troubled expression. "Lord Fu, please don't make this difficult for me. I don't want to do this either, but the emperor has specifically demanded it." The Fu family might dare to defy the imperial decree, but the commander of the imperial guards certainly did not. The emperor didn't dare to touch the Fu family. But he had no qualms about executing the entire household of the imperial guards commander. "Commander, be so kind as to inform His Majesty that if he wants the ginseng, he can dream on unless he steps over my dead body." The imperial guards commander grabbed a subordinate and ordered him to return to the palace with this message. The Fu residence wasn't far from the imperial palace, so the round trip wouldn't take much time. The subordinate trembled as he spoke. "His Majesty." His Majesty said. The chief steward kicked him in the rear, gnashing his teeth. "Just spit it out already." His Majesty said if the Fu family dares to defy the imperial decree, then show no mercy, kill them all. With these words, the Fu family completely severed ties with the imperial family. The steward gritted his teeth. "Fine. I only hope that Lord Fu, remembering our past as classmates, will spare my family from hardship." As he finished speaking, he raised his longsword to his neck, about to take his own life, when second sister stopped him. "Trouble yourself to deliver another message. If they want the ginseng, the emperor and empress must come to the Fu residence together. Otherwise, the Fu family will settle accounts for all past support given to the emperor along with the signed promissory notes. Moreover, my Fu family possesses the Shangfang sword, which can execute corrupt officials above and foolish rulers below." The last 4 words were uttered with particular emphasis. At this moment, the fifth prince appeared, revealing himself. "I'll return with you." The chief steward stared at the fifth prince in astonishment. "Your Highness, I'll go back with you." I quietly stepped forward and tugged at second sister's little finger. Feeling somewhat worried, second sister gave me a reassuring look. Soon, the imperial guards received the signal and withdrew completely. The next day, the fifth prince's mansion was returned to him, and he was granted an official title regent. According to my father, Shun Xian's expression had been foul since early that morning. The fifth prince even publicly reprimanded him for defying the late emperor's teachings and being unfilial, piling accusation upon accusation. Civil and military officials alike nearly scolded his nose crooked. I doubled over with laughter. And what about Qin Zhisheng? How was he dealt with? At this question, my father fell into an unusual silence. Qin Qianqian managed to protect him. He was only demoted, had 3 years' salary withheld, and confined to his home for 5 months of reflection. Confined to his home for 5 months of reflection. Is this for Qin Zhisheng to recuperate from his injuries? The military officials were so furious they collectively submitted their resignations. It was the regent who stepped in to stabilize the situation. He directly ordered Qin Zhisheng to be seized and brought into the imperial court hall, where he was executed by archers, thus quelling the military officials' anger. After all, the regent had fought alongside them through life and death. They recognized his authority, his majesty, fainted on the spot from rage. They say he still hasn't regained consciousness. The regent employed iron-fisted measures in the imperial court to stabilize the situation and proposed peace negotiations with the Song kingdom. Shun Xiang slammed the table and stood up, glaring fiercely at the regent. I object. He naturally wouldn't agree. If he did, his position as emperor would be gone. The regent said with calm assurance, our troops are now demoralized, and our military strength is less than 1/10 of the Song dynasty's, with most of our cities already lost. If we negotiate peace and offer what they want, we might still survive for a while longer. If the emperor insists on refusing and resisting to the end, the Song dynasty's attack will come in just a few days. Have you, as emperor, considered the safety of the common people in those few days? At this moment, seeking peace is the wisest course of action. I disagree. I refuse to agree. As long as I refuse, don't even think about peace negotiations. Shun Xiang was so furious he didn't even announce the court's adjournment, simply storming off in a huff. The regent sighed. This might be the shortest reigning emperor in history. Bang! It sounded like a heavy object being kicked over onto the ground. The elders all shook their heads in unison. At home, I was reading a newly arrived romance novel, titled The Spoiled Prince and His Domineering Wife. The plot was so captivating that before I knew it, more than half the day had slipped by. Xiaotsue suddenly burst in, her face deathly pale, her entire body trembling uncontrollably, with faint traces of blood staining her clothes. I looked up at the sight, my mind buzzing, and the book fell from my hands. Who was hurt? My voice carried a tremble I hadn't even realized was there. It's the regent. I just went out for supplies and saw the regent's personal servant crawling half-dead towards the clinic. The servant said the regent was poisoned and near death. He was assassinated right after leaving. Someone wants the regent dead. I stood up in a hurry, knocking over the teacup beside me. Staggering to my feet, I grabbed Xiaotsue, forcing myself not to tremble. Then, how is the regent now? Second miss has already taken people there. Don't panic, miss, the regent will surely be fine. Xiaotsue nervously gripped my hand, and I squeezed back, forcing myself not to collapse. It's fine, really. But after just 2 steps, a metallic taste of blood surged up my throat. Crimson streaks dripped from the corner of my mouth down to my chin and onto the ground, while waves of dizziness blurred my vision. Miss, someone, quick, someone. The young mistress is vomiting blood. I wanted to grab Xiaotsue, but as soon as I opened my mouth, blood gushed out, my body collapsed to the ground, and I completely lost consciousness. I had a long and complicated dream. I dreamed of an old man telling me, run eastward, and never look back. For some reason, I trusted him completely. I ran for a long time, until I was exhausted, until I wanted to give up. Then, faintly, a glimmer of light appeared. I ran desperately toward that light. The light grew brighter and brighter until I passed through it. Phew. I suddenly woke up with a start, gasping for breath, my eyes wide open, my entire body tense. Fu Shiyu, you're finally awake. My second sister's powerful bear hug nearly took half my life. You scared me to death, second sister said, on the verge of tears. Do you have any idea you've been unconscious for 7 days and 7 nights? You scared me to death. Eldest brother looked utterly haggard and disheveled, his hair somewhat messy, nothing like his usual meticulously groomed appearance. Seeing me awake, his eyes also reddened. That bastard Shun Xiang, isn't he asking for death? Fine, I'll grant his wish. Second sister's eyes flashed with venomous malice as she ordered brother-in-law to charge straight to the capital. What about Shun Nanxiao? How is he? I tugged at second sister's sleeve and asked with concern. Second sister. Second sister's expression seemed somewhat speechless. Second sister said, he's not poisoned. He's faking it, he's trying to deceive me. I let go of the hem of my clothes, my fingers retreating back under the blanket. So, was all my frantic worrying for nothing? Second sister, perhaps sensing my embarrassment, patted my hand and said, "It's fine. I stood up for you and told him we'd never speak again. How dare he not mention it beforehand?" I swallowed hard. Second sister, maybe it doesn't have to be that extreme, eldest brother snorted, pathetic. With that, he turned and left in a huff, as if he couldn't bear to see my hopeless, incorrigible state any longer. I tugged at second sister's sleeve. "Sis, what exactly is Shen Nanxiao's purpose in coming back? On the surface, he appears to be acting for the imperial family, yet he feigns poisoning to tarnish their reputation. Their reputation was already in tatters. What difference does a little more or less make at this point?" Second sister scratched her head. "I don't know either." I lay on the bed, unable to sort out these thoughts. I kept feeling like Shen Nanxiao was hiding something from us. But the answer must surely lie within the imperial city. My mind raced, and suddenly, I thought of something. Less than a month after Shen Nanxiao's near-death experience, his maternal grandfather's family was accused of treason. The entire clan was executed, not even his mother was spared. How could I have forgotten this? At that time, many people still begged the emperor for mercy, and the streets leading to the execution ground were covered with Wanmin San, umbrellas symbolizing public petition. Second sister, could you do me a favor? Spit it out. I want to look into the execution of Shen Nanxiao's maternal grandfather. Second sister narrowed her eyes slightly and said, "All right." Even second sister, who was usually well informed, encountered obstacles when investigating this matter. "It's as if someone is deliberately preventing me from looking into it." Leaning weakly against the bed as I sipped porridge, I asked, "Have there been any rumors circulating outside recently?" "There is, somehow, a rumor circulating that the current Emperor Shen Xiang is not the bloodline of the late emperor, but an unknown bastard." Second sister also found it a bit strange when mentioning this. Shen Xiang looks very much like the late emperor, then he's not an unknown bastard, but rather a brother of the late emperor from the same generation. Nowadays, there's still an old prince alive, back when the Empress Dowager was still the Empress. In order to help her secure that position, the old prince stopped at nothing. Then, everything makes sense now. The day before yesterday, while you were still unconscious, someone attempted to assassinate the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager seems to have been frightened out of her wits. She's been drifting between lucidity and madness, plagued by nightmares every night. As for Shen Xiang, no one knows what's gotten into him either. His temper has turned foul, smashing bowls and vases at the slightest provocation. Yesterday at court, he publicly executed a minister, and the day before when leaving the city, he even killed a commoner. No one can stand him anymore. Serves him right. The old prince's affairs were also exposed. It's said that the Empress Dowager went mad and blabbered it all out. He even revealed that Shen Xiang was not the late emperor's biological son. This caused turmoil in the imperial court. But there was no way to trace the truth or conduct a blood test with the deceased emperor. No matter, wasn't there still the old prince? The old prince refused and claimed his reputation had been slandered. He had only one wife, the old princess consort, throughout his life, with no concubines. The sudden appearance of an illegitimate child was something he couldn't accept. He even said, "Those who spread such nonsense, aren't you afraid your tongues will rot? My wife's health is already poor if you keep spouting lies. Don't blame me for being ruthless." His words, full of loyalty and righteousness, reached the Empress Dowager's ears within a quarter of an hour. Naturally, it was an embellished version. The imperial physician was still present at the time. With a single needle from the physician, the Empress Dowager regained much of her clarity. Upon hearing the news, she trembled with rage, grabbed a whip, and stormed straight to the old prince's quarters. She had the door kicked open and was about to lash the old prince. It was truly explosive. My second sister and I secretly changed our outfits, donned veils, and blended into the crowd to watch the spectacle. "You dare deny that Shen Xiang is your own flesh and blood? Stop pretending to be virtuous. Everyone knows how wild you are behind closed doors. I bet you've got beauties stashed away in your basement too." The old prince kept dodging the accusations. He valued his reputation above all else. Why else would he have crafted such an exceptionally rare persona for himself? Furious, he spat out, "Have you lost your mind? If you're insane, go see a doctor instead of making a scene here. Crazy, crazy, crazy. You keep calling me crazy every single day." The Empress Dowager lashed him again with her whip, leaving his flesh torn and bleeding. "When you slept with me, swearing your son would become emperor, why didn't you call me crazy then? Too weak and cowardly to rebel yourself. So you thought cuckolding the late emperor was the way? Which dog was it that kept saying just the thought of it thrilled him? Absolutely breathtaking. The surrounding crowd was utterly delighted, buzzing with excited chatter. You wouldn't dare lay a hand on the late emperor, but you dared to move against Shen Nanxiao. You caused the extermination of the entire Mo Protector's clan, and you secretly assassinated Shen Nanxiao just to protect your son. If we investigate, I refuse to believe there won't be any traces left. Crack. The old prince viciously slapped the Empress Dowager, bringing this farce to an end. That single remark was enough. Shen Nanxiao, feigning frailty, stood before the grievance drum and struck it once. Then again, your subject Shen Nanxiao has been wronged. I beg your majesty to investigate thoroughly. Investigate what? Investigate the old prince. The new emperor refused, but the ministers opposed him, with some even demanding his abdication. The new emperor had no choice but to summon the old prince, at court. The old prince looked as if he were suffering from constipation. It was said that the old princess consort was so enraged that her vital energy surged to her heart, nearly costing her life. Shen Nanxiao directly presented the court notarization. Your Majesty, please punish the Empress Dowager and the old prince, a son upholding justice by sacrificing his own father and mother. Shen Nanxiao, what exactly do you want? Are you determined to drive me to my death? Shun Xian's accusations rang out one after another as he rose from the dragon throne, grabbing a memorial and hurling it straight at Shen Nanxiao. Why did you come back? Has anything good happened since your return? You're nothing but a jinx. Not only did you cause your own family's demise, but now you must ruin me too. Shen Nanxiao, you, a eunuch, stumbled in frantically. No, no more. The Song army is attacking. Shen Nanxiao, who had been groveling moments ago, straightened his posture. With calm yet mocking eyes fixed on Shun Xiang, he walked to his side and asked in a whisper, Your Majesty, I heard you hold grudges best. Does the slightest displeasure make you want others dead? Shun Xian's eyes turned cold. You colluded with the Song kingdom. Wasn't it your highness who acted willfully, humiliating the Fu family, leaving no one to guard the borders for you? This is clearly the consequence of your own actions. How can you blame me? However, I can already imagine how the history books will portray you, not as a tyrant, not as a wise ruler, but as a worthless fool beyond all help. Shen Nanxiao burst into laughter as he spoke. A group of soldiers stormed into the imperial palace, meeting no resistance. Her brother-in-law even kicked Shun Xiang to the ground, shouting, useless trash, causing trouble without any ability. That kick carried deep resentment. If it weren't for his mischief, my sister wouldn't have traveled thousands of miles back home, nor would she have left him alone in an empty house for so long. My brother-in-law is extremely attached to my sister and can't bear to be apart from her for even a moment. These past days have been unbearable for him too. The ministers were dismissed and confined to a single room. Only Shen Xiang, the Empress Dowager, the old prince, and Qin Qianqian remained. During this time, Qin Qianqian had been keeping a low profile, almost to the point of being forgotten. But the moment Qin Qianqian saw the regent, she froze, then suddenly understood something and burst into laughter. So it's you, it's really you. Now I get it, it's you. You did this on purpose. You deliberately taught me Jiyu sorcery, made me cast a curse on Shen Xiang. You just wanted to come back for revenge, didn't you? Ha ha ha. Shen Nanxiao, you're truly disgusting. Witchcraft doesn't exist, but Jiyu sorcery does. And how did Shen Nanxiao learn it? Naturally, I taught him. I stepped out of the shadows, walking step by step until I stood before Qin Qianqian, watching this farce unfold as I pinched her chin. Qin Qianqian, you see, you still can't compare to me. You'll always be the losing dog. I studied Jiyu sorcery because a Jiyu had been planted inside me, leaving me frail. Since they couldn't find the mother Jiyu, my parents resorted to learning some Jiyu techniques to help me counterbalance it, and this Jiyu was precisely the one Qin Qianqian had cast on me. Because she had cast it before, when we met again, she believed it without the slightest hesitation. Shen Xiang is such a useless piece of trash. I stopped wanting him long ago. Since you seem to like him so much, I'm giving him to you. How about it? Happy now? I laughed, then turned to look at Shen Xiang, who was staring at me in a daze. How was the nightmare? How was losing control? Did you enjoy the taste of being drugged by me? Otherwise, how could you have drugged me again and again? Once. He nearly succeeded. Afterwards, he even joked about it with those people and spread rumors. If I hadn't discovered it in time, who knows how the gossip would have spread by now. My thirst for revenge runs deep. I whispered softly, Shen Xiang, your days of peace are numbered. My brother-in-law ruled with an iron fist. Those willing to surrender could stay. As for those who refused and still stirred up trouble, The blade flashed coldly. The man who had just cursed my brother-in-law as shameless hadn't even closed his mouth before collapsing to the ground like a broken kite. My brother-in-law wiped his long sword absent-mindedly, his voice dripping with coldness. "I'm not that patient either. If you want to die, do it yourself. Stop wailing in my ears, it's bad luck." In an instant, everyone fell silent, not daring to even breathe loudly. One of my brother-in-law's generals called for him on urgent business. With an aloof he ordered the general to deal with these people and then strode away. Actually, it was a secret code between my brother-in-law and the general. Too lazy to deal with it, he just ran away. My home became my brother-in-law's temporary office. As soon as he entered and the door closed, he completely dropped his aloof demeanor and dashed toward my second sister at lightning speed. "Oh dear, madam, I've missed you so much." Plop, sitting nearby, I watched this scene unfold when the walnut I hadn't finished shelling fell onto the plate with a crisp sound. Second sister pushed her away, displaying a rare hint of maidenly shyness. "What are you doing? Little sister is right here. Look, look, look." Second sister has really become gentle. Before, she would always call us by our full names, and now it's little sister. Oh ho ho. I only dare think these words in my heart, saying them out loud would get me beaten. My brother-in-law cleared his throat lightly and shot me a meaningful look. Still not leaving. "Have you no shame?" I pursed my lips. "Oh tilde. I dragged out that last syllable, dripping with teasing sarcasm. "Brought you some lychees, and 2 chefs too. Have them cook you something delicious. Go on. Hurry up." The moment I heard that, I stopped dawdling. I immediately hopped off the daybed and even thoughtfully closed the door behind me. Cook. Just thinking about it makes my mouth water. The consequence of indulgence was stomach pain in the middle of the night, with Shen Nanxiao scolding me while massaging my belly. Shen Nanxiao, I was so drowsy that I hummed softly, turning to bury myself in his embrace, nuzzling against him while mumbling something indistinctly. Shen Nanxiao leaned in closer to listen carefully. "Shen Nanxiao, I missed you so much." Shen Nanxiao smiled silently, his eyes brimming with tender affection as he leaned in to nuzzle the tip of my nose before quietly pulling away. Shen Kingdom was successfully conquered and incorporated into Song Kingdom, renamed as the Northern Prefecture. Shen Nanxiao had no interest in the title of Northern Prefecture King, nor did he wish to be bound by it again. His brother-in-law then sent a trusted subordinate to take over. Upon taking charge, the subordinate began a thorough purge. This subordinate was one who couldn't tolerate the slightest impurity. The execution platform operated from dawn till dusk, and the stench of blood could be smelled from 3 miles away. As for the Empress Dowager and her entourage, they were left entirely to Shen Nanxiao to deal with. Shen Xian's feet were tied to one end of a rope, the other end fastened to a carriage. They circled the city 3 times, scattering countless sheets of paper, each inscribed with Shen Nanxiao's great achievements, since he loved fame and reputation so much. They tore them to shreds. The Empress Dowager, while the old prince was tied to the railing at the entrance. Anyone who threw rotten vegetables would be rewarded with gold. The more one threw, the greater the reward. In a fit of rage, the old princess consort passed away completely, and the old prince's children refused to acknowledge him as their father. In the basement, several coffins were found, each containing young women in the prime of their lives. After intense interrogation, it was revealed that the old prince had intended for them to accompany him in burial after his death. The graves had already been dug, on the surface. It appeared he would be buried alongside his princess, but in reality, a small hidden chamber was specially prepared next to it to house these young women. Before their deaths, all the young women had been violated, each atrocity committed by the old prince himself. Shen Xiang truly lives up to being his seed, cut from the same cloth. Shen Nanxiao summoned the scribe and, before the barely breathing Shen Xiang, recorded every deed he had committed, down to the last detail. Ensuring his name would be remembered for centuries, he no longer had the strength to resist, his eyes hollow, lost in unknowable thoughts. Only after the scribe had left did he call out to stop him. He wanted to see me. Upon learning this, I went. As soon as I arrived, I saw him lying in the dungeon like a pile of mud, clearly having suffered severe torture. Those assassins were sent by the old prince, but this idea was proposed by Shen Xiang. He simply wanted Shen Nanxiao's life. "You wanted to see me." I arrived before the dungeon cell, gazing at him with indifferent eyes. Shen Nanxiao's eyes flickered as he looked at me, smiling bitterly, as if murmuring to himself, yet also speaking to me. "I had a dream. I dreamed that you didn't refuse, that you married me step by step as planned. The entire Fu family was under my control, and you even went so far as to break ties with your sister." stealing the defense map of Song country for my use, Fushiyu. Why has everything changed like this? He was very weak, his voice floating and indistinct, barely audible if one didn't listen carefully. There aren't so many good things in this world, Shun Shiyang. Don't think you can treat others as fools just because you're a little clever, I calmly retorted, but my fingernails dug into my palms. If I had made you my queen back then, would everything have turned out differently? Shun Shiyang seemed to be asking me, yet also seemed to be asking himself. This answer, I could give him, never. I added another sentence, I never liked you from the beginning to the end, even loathed you. My family's doting on me, even if it took the entire family's effort, would never let me suffer grievances. Just one word of refusal from me, and you'll never marry me. Shun Shiyang let out a low chuckle, his laughter growing louder until it tugged at his wounds, making him curl up slightly in pain. Fushiyu, I truly envy you, you were born under a lucky star. Wiping the tears from the corners of his eyes, Shun Shiyang struggled to his feet, his gaze burning with resentment. If I had another chance, I'd have claimed you for myself long ago. I felt pity for his thoughts. What a shame. This world doesn't give second chances. He laughed, then smashed his head against the wall, blood spilling everywhere. Faintly, I could still hear him say, impossible, this can't be. I averted my gaze, said a few words to the people outside, then went home. Qin Qianqian's entire family, exterminated to the 9th degree. Anyone close to Qin Qianqian didn't escape. That day at the execution ground, I made a point to look at her. She knelt on the ground, begging me to spare her, tears welling up, a perfect picture of a beauty in distress. But the next second, the beauty tumbled to the ground. Her hand, still clutching the hem of my robe, didn't even have time to let go. I slowly pried it apart, looking at her with pity before flicking my sleeve and leaving. At the same time, I felt the GU worm inside me vanish. I focused carefully, it had truly disappeared. So the mother GU had been on Qin Qianqian all along. At that time, she was just a useless pawn being used by others. Turns out she had fallen into the trap too. Once things were mostly settled, my brother-in-law clung to my sister, whining, let's go home, it's time to go home. A vein throbbed violently on my eldest brother's forehead. My parents exchanged a glance, their eyes filled with disdain before they looked up at the sky. I was the least affected, munching away on lychees, icy and sweet, absolutely delicious. Since recovering my health, I've been playing to my heart's content, running here, jumping there, wanting to taste everything. If Shun Nanqiao hadn't held me back, I probably would have taken a bite out of the herbs in the clinic too. The dietary restrictions before were so strict. What a tearful ordeal. My parents were unwilling to leave this place. After all, they had spent most of their lives here. In the end, my brother-in-law decided that the position of Northern County Prince would be given to my father. Family is trustworthy. After all, it was much the same as before, just subordinate to the Song Kingdom. Under my father's management, the Northern County flourished like never before. Kill without mercy if there's any trouble. To enforce military discipline, Shun Nanqiao also offered quite a few strategies. Without those vexing matters, the old minister's tempers improved considerably, each living many more years. Every day, they leisurely took their birds for walks. Nothing could be more delightful. On my 19th birthday banquet, Shun Nanqiao came to propose marriage. The betrothal gifts filled the entire house, even spilling out onto the whole street. I froze. You're this rich? Shun Nanqiao smiled modestly. I own 3 mines. Me, well, no wonder. I'd underestimated him. On the night of our wedding, I had a dream. I dreamed everything unfolded exactly as Shun Shiyang had predicted. My parents disapproved of my relationship with Shun Shiyang, so I went on a hunger strike. When Shun Shiyang demanded the defense map, I immediately went to the Song Kingdom, not only causing my second sister's death, but also severely wounding my unsuspecting brother-in-law. My parents were furious enough to disown me, but in the end, they couldn't bring themselves to do it. My eldest brother sacrificed half his life to save me. Proud as he'd always been, lying paralyzed on his bed, he never uttered a single word of blame against me, until the day Shun Kingdom suddenly rose to become the mightiest nation. Shun Shiyang uncovered evidence of our family's secret dealings with foreign powers in our home, resulting in the extermination of our entire clan. Even I have died. Only after death did I seem to regain clarity, looking back at my former mad actions with a sense of unfamiliarity. Later, I learned that thing was buried by Qin Qianqian, and the idea had also come from her. I even witnessed with my own eyes Shun Nanqiao avenging me by perishing together with Shun Shiyang, at the moment of their deaths. A sharp pain shot through my head, and when I woke again, I was back in my childhood, cycle after cycle. The second time I was conscious, this time with memories. I wanted to resist, but with every attempt at resistance came unbearable agony, pain seeping from my very bones. At the palace banquet, in a brief moment of clarity, I drew my long blade and killed Shen Shiyang and Qin Qianqian. The entire world descended into chaos, and in that very instant, I was pierced by a sharp arrow. Beginning the cycle anew, again and again, my tolerance for pain grew stronger, until eventually I would briefly lose control and start arranging things, until one performance review, I noticed Qin Qianqian frantically talking to herself in the air. Why is she still lucid? What the hell are you doing? She's uncontrollable. If she's uncontrollable, can't you just intensify the pressure? I don't care. I must become the Empress, and I must also absorb Fu Shiyu's fortune. Her luck is the best I've ever seen. I must make it mine. With a single palm strike, I shattered the rooftop. In this lifetime, I've mastered martial arts. Qin Qianqian is nothing but trash, utterly defenseless against my attacks. Pointing my long sword at her head, I smiled with icy amusement. Stealing my fortune? No wonder I couldn't control it. It was you all along. Phut! He dropped dead instantly. Shen Shiyang suddenly burst in. I drew my long sword, glaring coldly at him. I almost forgot about you. Every time, Shen Shiyang was the one who was both stupid and wicked. Let's die together. The long sword plunged into his body. Ah! A piercing scream echoed in my head, accompanied by waves of sharp pain. At the brink of death, Shen Shiyang drew the dagger he carried and plunged it into my heart. This time, I died again. Yet, the next time I discovered, I am free from all restraints. I can control myself now. There will be no more erratic behavior in this life. I can finally love my family properly. A slight tremor shook me awake from my dream of memories. It's Shen Nanxiao. He gently wiped away the tears at the corner of my eye. What's wrong? I wrapped my arms around his waist and mumbled. It's nothing. It's fine. It was all over. After that, everything went smoothly.